As the lion in our Tiergarten remembers the Nephiras of his Nile, shall Arius forget Ariun or Borges the Bergems of the Marazals from Marmania? It may be Tot's weary sense full of a naggin in a 20 G have signal-posted what in our breathing bust the besieged bedreamed him still, and solely of those Liliths undeveiled which had undone him, gone for age, and knew not the watchful treacherous at his wake, and theirs to stay. Foy. Chamamisses, Zippy Zoeppy, Larson lads, Sigin. It may be we most ons hasten selves to declare it, that he reglimmed, we saw the fields of heat and yields of wheat, where corn gold is it, shamed and shone. It may be we haben to upseek a bitty door, our good township's grants, won't we newt, that with his deep-seeing insight had not wishing oft been, but good time wasted within his patriarchal shamana, Broadstein, Bow City, Twilby, he conscious of enemies, a King Billy Whitehorse in a Finglass mill. Prayed, as he sat on anxious seat, Continuit, gift may Tobut, a Piersaft Irebilids, during that 3 and a hell of hours agony of silence, ex profundis malorum, and bred with unfeigned charity that his world wounder, and Engels to the teeth who Norman Nash of Girahash would go any old, wherein the weeping world on his mottled belly, the rob, the creepons need, for milk, music, or married misses, might mercy to providential benevolences, who hates prudency's astuteness, unfold into the first of a distinguished dynasty of his posteriors, black-faced Connemara's, not of the fold, but elder children of his household, his most besetting of ideas, passe his 12th predominant passions, being the formation, as in more favoured climes, wherein the meadow of honey is guest-friendly, and the mountain of joy receives of a truly criminal stratum, hams, crib-cracking yeggs, thereby at last eliminating from all classes and masses, with directly derivative decasualization, Sijarus sic, vindicat urbis terrorum, sicker. And so to mark a bank, tal shiata, the obedience of the citizens, help the health of the old. Now go to... Let us leave theories there and return to here's here. Now here 'tis gold again. The teak coffin, pew glass panel fitted, feet to the east, was to turn in later, and pitly-patly near the porpoise materially affecting the cause, and this lever is the thing how any number of conservative public bodies, through a number of select and other committees, having power to add to their number, before voting themselves and himself, town, port, and garrison, by a fit and proper resolution, following a court's order of the ground wet, once for all out of plotty existence, as a forescut, so you might skippy, might to you cutting runner, on the new pack of clerds, made him while his body still persisted, their present of a protum, grave in my altar, of the best Loch League pattern. Then as much in demand among of man today among limnophobes, which even it was in a fairly fishy kettle's curry, after the Fienna's foreman had taken his handful, enriched with ancient woods and dear Dutchy diplins, which were when old Noll in a trout beck, veiny vein over ossuary, and a chatty Sally with any wilt or Walterwood ongler, as Isaac did the tickle of his rod, and watch her waters of her silly waters of, and there now brown Peter, Arapil may their gild, lightly over his somnolent form, wherefore you lies his last, by the wrath of bog, like the erst cursed here hun, in the bed of his Troy blur, dunno you. Best. This was to have been underground heaven, a mole's paradise, which was probably also an inversion of a fallophorus, intended to foster wheat crops and ginger up Chew's trade. Its architect, Monsieur Perlachas, having been obcassated lest he should petrifake, such a never whilst the contractors, Messrs. T. A. Burkett and L. O. Two Halls, were made invulnerably venerable, first in the west our Mr. Builder, Castle Villainous, openly damned and blasted by means of a hydramine system, sown and belting, exploded from a reinvented TNT bombing post up ahoy of 11 and 30 Wingcrest Cercita to sternboard out of his aerial torpedo. Horton Dynamon, contacted with the expected minefield of tins of improved ammonia, lashed to her shield-plated gunwale and fused into trip-up cables, slipping through those and playing down from the conning tower into the ground battery fuse boxes, all differing as clocks from keys, since nobody appeared to have the same time of beard, some saying by their oorlog it was sig trigs to 9, more holding with Ryan Vogt, it was deigned to 5. He afterwards, whenever his blather began to fail of him, and his rough bark was wholly husky, and stoop by stoop he neared it, woodman spare, carefully lined the ferro-concrete result with rot-proof bricks and mortar, fast to frost, and retired beneath the heptarchy of his towerettes, the Beauchamp byword, bull and lion, the white, the wardrobe, and bloodied so encouraging in stepum owls hats beliefed, additional useful counsels public, with hoofed off dealings which were well holden of lady cants, to whoa out such as the Breeders' Union, the Guild of Merchants of the Staple, et AUC, to present unto him with funeral pomp. Over and above that, a stone slab with the usual Macfella address of valediction. A very fair-worded instance of false meaning, Adamaliji. We have done our go health with you. Hair whip it, or we're giving it skidoo. But house and all aboard shoops, show coffins, winding sheets, goodbye beer sheps, cernery urns, lie aloud blasses, snuff chets, poteen tubs, lacrimal vases, hooden doses, reek water beckers, break middles, zootzaks for eat lust, including up your healthy rookworst, and me the worst softened fork and pootsies, and for that matter jarvel also, any kind of inhumatory bric-a-brac for the adornment of his Gladstone honofroim would mean these train of conditiens naturally follow, halas, in the ordinary course, enabling that round the world one licks white did suchus pass him, to live all safe at homely the pre-zenile days of his life of opulence, ancient air decrepitude, late last lenience, still stuffing away stage, wailing away the whole of the while. Hypnos kilia ionion, least lulled between explosion and re-explosion. Donawatur, hum the thunder, from gross cup to megapod, embalmed of grand age, rich in death anticipated. But to bide sight summon serving, rise after fall, blue blitz bolted from there, knowing the hinge worms of the hallmarks of habitationlessness, buried burrowing in Gehinnon, to proliferate through all this underwealth, seam by seam, Sheol Sheol, and revisit our upper crust sidereal of Utilitarius, the Divine One, the Hoarder Heaven, propagating his Pluto-popular progenium of pots and pans and pokers and puns, from Biddenland to Boughtonland, the spearway for the spoorway. The other spring offensive on the heights of Abraham may have come about all quite by accidents. Futterunza, for breeder brooder had at length persuaded him to have himself to be as sepulchrally buried as the murdered Theon in Fintown. Had not been 3 monads in his watery grave, what vigilance and ridings then, and sweet wine pledges, with air-dappled frittling, where putrefaction dreyfused as ever, began to ramp, the boys are parching. A Hoodenwinkle gave the signal, and a blessing paper freed the flood. Why did the patrician make him scares with his gruntings? Because the Dweeven men mere musketing at the door from both Celtic Berian camps, granting at the onset, for the sake of argument, that men on the 2 sides of the north-south island and vetera Ulad, blooming and pill-faces, during the ferment with the Pope or on the Pope, had Moors or lets grunt ideas grunted, all conditions poor cons, and dives more each, of course, on the purely defensive, since the Eternals were owl-wise on their side, every time were drawn towards their Bellona's black bottom. Once Woolwhite's waltz, oh he bow, how be crimed, be curse-kissed, and be dumb-toit, some for want of proper feeding in youth, others already caught in the honourable act of slicing careers for family, and carvers in conjunction, and if emaciated enough, the person garroted may have suggested to him whether he took the ham of, the plain being involved in darkness, low cirque waggery, nay, even the first old wugger of himself in the flesh, Wigasismus incarnadined, when false-sighted by the if such he was bully on the hill, for there had circulated freely fairly among his opposition the feeling that in so hibernating Massa Ewaka, who previous to that demi-detached life had been known of barmecidal days, cook said, between soups and savours, to get outside his own length of rainbow trout and tates, and at a turn, as no man of woman born they could, like the great crested breb, devour his 60 of roach per life day. Aye, and as many minnow a minute, the big mix may gribbet choke him, was like the salmon of his ladderly all this time, of totality secretly, and by suckage feeding on his unmost misplaced fat. Ladies did not disdain those pagan iron times of the furs, city, called after the ugliest Danadune, when a friend was a friend in need, to carry, as earwigs do their dead, their soil to the earth ball, where in death we shall calm decline, our legacy unknown. Venuses were gigglably temptatrix, Vulcans guffawnably eruptuous, and the whole wives would frock full of fickles. Fact, any human idiot of Erinoon or Efter would take her bare godkin out, or even an even pair of hem, lugodo, and prettily pray with him, or with them even. Every he to her taste, long for luck, to pet, and take petter, and take pettest of all. Tip. Well, she woo and wills, she's win, but how the dear knowed where she'd marry. Arbour bucket room caravan, ditch coach carriage, wheelbarrow dung cart. Kate Strong, a widow, tip-tip. She pulls the lane picture for us, in a dreary dreamer setting, glowing in very visual of old Dumplin, as she nosed it, a home-like cottage of elven stone with droppings of biddies, stinking pushies, moggies duggies, rotten witcher-wubbles, festering rubbiches and beggars' bullets, if not worse, sending salmofarious germs in gleefully through the smithereen panes. Widow Strong then, as a weaker had turned him to the wall, tip, 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 did most all the scavenging from good King Hamlau's golden dine, through her lean bosom cleaned, but sparingly, and her bare statement reads that there being no macadamized sidetracks on those old necropolitan nights, in barring a foot batter, Brian's Causeway, bordered with speedwell, white clover and sorrel and woodnose, which left off being beaten, where the plaintiff was struck, she left down, as scavengers who will be scavengers must, her filth dump near the Serpentine, in Fornix Park, at her time called Finewell's Keepsaker, but later Tau baptized, Pat's purged. That Dangerfield circling butcher's wood, where fireworker O'Flaherty engaged a nutter of Castle Mallards, and O for archer, stuns Turk, all over which fossil footprints, bootmarks, finger signs, elbow dints, breech bowls, ASO, were all successfully traced of a most involving description. What subtler time-place of the wheel than such wolf's belly castrament, to will hide a leobar from Thursman's brandy hands, or a love letter lustfully hers that would be lust on mar, then when ructions ended, then here where race began, and by 4 hands of forethought the first babe of reconcilement is laid in its last cradle of Hume, sweet Hume. Give it over, and no more of it. So pass the pick for child's sake, O men. For here all highest brack, for Christians as for propaganda fillies, and his nuptial eagles sharp their beaks of prey. And every mortal man of us, poem by poem, falls back into this terrene, as it was let it be, says he, and it is as though where agony are flammed, and Mithra admonished and Shiva slew as Maya Mutras, the obluvial waters of our noarchy memory withdrew, windingly go harksome to some hasty timberman torch priest, flam and flan, the ward of the wind that lightened the fire that lay in the wood that Jove built, and his rude word poisonous, O fluctuary, lave that bloody stone as it is. What are you doing, you dirty minx? And his big tree pluck, way up your path, slip around you by the rare minsters, and you take the barrel back where you got it, McShanes, and go the way your old one went, Hatchet Busbury Road, and Gish. How they gushed away the penny fares, a whole school for scamper, with their sashers flying sish behind them, all the little pearly pets. Issy La Chapelle. Any Lucans, please? Yes, the viability of viscerals. The invisible, if invisible, is invincible. And we are not trespassing on his corns either. Look at all the plotch. Fluminian. If this was Hannibal's walk, it was Hercules' work. And 100,000 of the unemancipated slaved the way. The mausoleum behind us, O Adjechester, multi-popular pater, and there are milestones in the Chedmalas, faltering along the Thames track by Brahm and Anton Hermes, per omnibus secula secularum. Amen. But the past has made us his present of a reader read, a reader hode. So more Boher O'Connell, though rainy hidden, your rhino hide, and if he's not a Romeo, you may scallop your hat, wear a punder in the fane of Saint Fiacre. Halt!